Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me again in my art studio / office space. Thanks for continuing to watch the Buckeyes at Home series, and welcome back to another segment of Doodle Days with Zach. I'm so glad to have you back today, and I'm glad that we have this opportunity to doodle together again. I'm so grateful that we have this time together that even though we're in our own homes, we can still doodle together. So in this video, we're going to be doing something a little bit differently than what we've done in the past. It's going to be a little bit more like what we did in our first video, where we drew around a theme, which happened to be Fluffy, so I drew my cat. Now in this video, instead of doodling around a theme, we're going to start by doodling just a basic shape. I drew a rectangle, and we're going to be building a big image off of just this one shape. So I think this is illustrated best in a quote from Picasso, which is, to know what you're going to draw, you have to begin drawing. So we'll begin drawing here shortly, but before we do, I want you to go and find some art supplies. So I want you to pause and find some paper, some pencils, colored pencils, crayons, markers, whatever you want to use to doodle today. You have complete freedom here. And then when you've found your art supplies, I want you to go and press play, and we can resume the video. Welcome back! So I'm so glad you found some great art supplies. We'll go ahead and get started. So if you want, feel free to draw a rectangle if you want to follow along with me, or draw whatever shape you want to draw. So I mean, I could see you drawing a square, a circle, whatever works best for you. But I'm going to start with a rectangle. Now, when I look at this rectangle, I see so many possibilities for it, and I need your help deciding what to do next with it. So what could you see this rectangle becoming? Awesome, thank you so much for the ideas. Thanks for the suggestions. So something that I thought about when I was looking at this is maybe I could see it becoming a house of some sort. Now I could draw a triangle on top of that, but that would be a little bit too flat. I want this image to have a little bit of depth to it. So I want to kind of make it look a little more 3D. And that's going to be kind of a theme of ours. We're going to have a lot of things in the background in this video today and a lot of things in the foreground. So a lot of things that are a little bit closer to us as we look at this piece. But then a lot of things in the background that are a little bit smaller or maybe a bit bigger because they're big things in the background. So we'll get to all that here in a little bit. But what I want to do is to add a little bit more dimension to this house. I'm going to draw some lines at an angle just to the right. They're going to be slanted facing up just to the right of that rectangle. And I'm going to connect those with another straight line. So what we've done is we've created another rectangle at an angle, kind of long ways, right beside. So this is just another wall on our house. Now, I want to start on a roof, so I'm going to draw another line directly over, just a straight line directly over what we've done so far with our house. And I'm then going to draw at an angle these lines here, and connect them with another straight line. And there's going to be a little bit of overlap here, so that's perfectly fine. We can color over that later on. But then, to add another angle for our roof, I'm going to draw another line coming down. And at this point, I'll draw a little line here. We've now got the rough outline of a house. So I like how this is coming, but I feel like it's missing something. What could we add to this house to make it look a little bit more like a house? Awesome, thanks for the reminders. Yeah, we should probably add in some windows, maybe some doors and things like that. So I'm going to draw in a couple of squares here on this big side, the first rectangle we drew. And you can draw whatever shape windows you want. I really love the look of round windows, but I wanted to draw squares just for this video. And then I'm going to add a door on this thinner wall here that we just made. So I'm going to make kind of a wider line over here, and I'm using just a brown marker right now. So at this point, I'm going to call it quits on this house for now. We're going to come back to it and color it in because you know that's my favorite part of a doodle. So we'll come back to this here in a bit. But first, I want to focus on adding something else to this because right now our house is kind of floating in empty space. So maybe we want it sitting on something, whether that's the ground or maybe we'll want it on a hill or something. So to make this house really stand out, I'm not going to draw it on the edge of a hill. I'm going to draw the hill behind it. So I'm going to start out by drawing a line kind of at about the level of the roof. I'm going to have it go behind the house, kind of like that. So we've got our line going through but behind the house. And then I'm going to draw it slanting down. And we've got the makings of a really nice hill. I love the look of a house on a hill. I think it's really pretty. But we still have a lot of empty space, so maybe we'll want to add in another hill. So maybe about, we'll say halfway between the house And the bottom frame of my dry erase board will draw another line coming out of that hill. And we'll have another hill going up here. Nice, that's a nice looking hill. So this might be a really nice space for a character that you might be working on or a cartoon you've been drawing to live in. So this might be a great setting for your story. And what I love about reading, and as a librarian I read a lot, is reading kind of gives you an escape into another location that maybe you'd love to visit. So I have a lot of places that I've visited by reading books. What are some of your places that you've visited reading books? What are your favorite places to visit while you read? Awesome. Those are some great spaces. I love reading stories where there's a lot of forests and woods in them, and I love to visit those spaces while I read. So even though I'm in my own home, I'm still visiting those spaces as I'm reading. So maybe this would be a great space for someone to visit while they're reading your stories. Now, I've got some hills, I've got a house, but I feel like we need to add in some trees. So, in the words of one of my favorite artists, Bob Ross, we need a couple of happy little trees in here. So I'm going to draw in a couple of lines to represent tree trunks. And I'm going to have them bending at different angles, because trees a lot of times aren't just a straight line with a circle over them in nature. They're not like a lollipop. They have a lot of different angles coming out of them. And also, branches. So we're going to draw in a couple of lines coming out of our trunk here. Maybe some other lines coming out of those lines, so branching off a little bit more. Maybe we'll add in a few branches on that main line there. Yeah, so I'm going to call it quits there with that tree trunk. And now I want to add in the leaves. Now if this is winter, we wouldn't have to add in leaves, but I want this to be kind of a spring scene since it's April now. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of draw in the shape of the leaves. Now I'm not going to draw in a circle. I'm just going to do a bunch of little half circles, like so, around those branches. Kind of fill them in. This is going to kind of give us the shape of what a tree might actually look like based on those branches. And it's okay to have that green go over some of the branches too. So a lot of times you'll have trees covering some branches as you look at them outside. If you need to look at some trees to draw these, go right ahead. So I love looking outside in nature and drawing what I see. So I've got one tree done, but maybe this tree has a little friend. I'm going to draw this tree a little higher up on the hill and behind this tree. So I'm going to have some lines going behind it, maybe some branches here. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add in my leaves for this tree too. So once again, a bunch of little half circles, just to create the illusion of some leaves here. Just following along with those branches. All right, so we've got a couple of trees, but I want to add in some trees in the background a little bit. So a lot of times when I'm driving around, I see like a lot of trees behind the other trees I'm seeing that are closer to me, and they look a little bit lighter in color, and that's kind of true in a drawing too. So I'm going to use a very light blue here. And what I'm going to do is, on top of this hill, I'm going to draw just some blue lines, maybe a couple of half circles, but I just want to have some shapes that represent trees in the background. So this could even be a little bit of a scribble on top of that hill, but just in a light blue. So there we go. We've got our trees in the background, but we have so much empty space here. So we could start drawing in our sky, but instead I want to fill in the space with something else. Maybe we have some mountains. I love mountains. And I don't see a lot of them since we live in Ohio, but you know, as I've traveled around the country, I have seen some mountains in like the Carolinas and places like that. So I'm going to draw in, and they kind of look like triangles here, but they kind of overlap with each other like this. So you have this mountain, but then one's behind it, and you're going to see that here. And maybe we have another big mountain, and maybe another one over here. Now, a lot of times mountains have like snow at the very top of them, so I'm going to go ahead and draw that just with a few lines, a few little half circles here and here, just to illustrate a little bit of snow. And then they're not straight triangles. They kind of go down at little angles, so I'm just going to add in these lines here, just to kind of make them go down like that, just to add a little bit more dimension to them, a little bit more depth. So at this point, we've got our mountains, and I want to have a little bit of light here. So I'm going to draw in between these two mountains in the middle, our sun, and maybe our sun's setting here. So I've got a little half circle. I can start to fill that in. You recall I like to use a lot of lines when I'm drawing. There we go, we've got a source of light now. So it's starting to look really nice. But our sky is still so empty, so maybe it's time to add in some clouds. So you know how much I love clouds. You probably saw in that painting I showed in the first video that I just really love to draw big clouds. So I'm going to use a lot of little lines here to make a kind of a big fluffy cloud here at the top. So we've got our clouds, and now it's time to maybe add in, oh, something I almost forgot to do is maybe we need to add in the reflection of the orange in the clouds, a little bit, just so we can see that source of light. So just on these half circles, I'm going to draw in a little bit of orange on our clouds. That way you can see that the sun's setting. I love a good sunset or a good sunrise, don't you? So we've got our clouds drawn. Now it's time for my favorite part, which is coloring in the image. So I'm going to draw in a bunch of little lines. And what I kind of love about drawing in lines, and this is my art style, so you can draw as solidly as you want, but I love drawing lines because they illustrate a bit of movement. So maybe you can imagine the wind blowing in this, just by looking at all these lines going around all of these mountains. So we've got kind of a blustery day, maybe some winds blowing through those leaves. So now we've got our sky colored in. And I'm going to color in these mountains now. So remember, we have snow at the top, so I'm not going to color those in. But I am going to draw a bunch of lines going up the mountain, kind of in line with the angle at which we drew it. So you'll see my lines kind of shift direction here. And we've got this one over here. And we'll color in this one a little bit, add some lines going up at different angles. And a few lines over here. Now we get to our house. Like I said, we're going to color this in now. So I'm going to add in some brown lines for the roof, kind of cover up that overlap. See, we got rid of that. And then I'm going to add in some lines for some of the siding here on the house. Maybe a few over here on the front. And now I want to add in maybe some grass detail. So I'm going to draw in some lines. You can add so much more to this. You can add whatever you want. Maybe a flying saucer, or a dragon, or anything else. Whatever you want to add to this. But at this point, now that we've got some grass drawn in, we've got a lot of movement going on, I'd say we're about done with our doodle. So this is what I've drawn today. Now I'll hold it up to the screen so you can see it a little bit better. So there's my drawing, but I'd love to see what you drew. Can you hold up what you were doodling today to the screen? Wow, those look great! Excellent work! And it all began just by drawing a simple shape like a rectangle. So we've built so much of a picture just from a simple shape. There's so much you can do just with shapes. Now, does your doodle look exactly like mine? No, but it does look exactly like yours, right? So we all have our own unique art styles, and I really hope that you remember that even beyond these videos. So I really hope that you remember that you have a great art style all your own, and that's what really makes your art yours. So thank you so much for watching these videos. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I can't wait to see you in the next video, and there will be another video out shortly, so just keep an eye out on the Buckeyes at Home series. Thanks so much for watching, and have a fantastic day.